So I've been hearing a lot of talk about a medieval device called the Pear of Anguish, and I think I might know where it's coming from.
The Pear of Anguish for your prosecutor's Uber driver. Good night.
Yeah, that's right, Shy, the woman who is single-handedly making the internet up its potluck game with increasingly violent threats with torture devices, and the Pear of Anguish is one of them. And this has prompted lots of people to go off and look up what is a Pear of Anguish. And this is the kind of results that they're getting. A whole load of results that tell you that the Pear of Anguish was a medieval torture device that was inserted into orifices and cranked open to achieve the desired levels of awfulness. And there are even Pears of Anguish in some museums, and this is what they look like. This is a Pear of Anguish from the Torture Museum in Poland. This is one from the Inquisition Museum. And these are some that are apparently held in the Louvre Museum in Paris. But, and this is a very, very good lesson for everybody, just because there are artifacts in museums and just because there are internet articles written about it does not make it true. The truth about these claims is dubious to say the least. Historians have been concerned about this one for a while, but the person really leading the charge is this academic here, Chris Bishop, who wrote this article in 2014, and you can go and read it online. So what follows here is taken from this article, and it's his work. So first things first, they're not medieval. That'd be all the medieval scholars going, yeah, stop blaming stuff on us. Chastity belts are another one. They don't exist in the medieval world. Either Pears of Anguish, no records of them whatsoever, in quite meticulous records of the kind of implements they were using to hurt people, just doesn't exist. Were they used in the Spanish Inquisition, as is sometimes claimed? Well, they kept really methodical records, like really detailed, awful lists of the things that they were doing, how much those things costed, and their desired effect. No record of it whatsoever. The Spanish Inquisition started in the late 1470s, so it's medieval by the very skin of its teeth, and it wasn't actually officially abolished until 1830, so definitely not medieval. And they weren't using Pears of Anguish either. Now, there are some records, going back to, I think it's the 17th century, of highwaymen and robbers in Holland who would use metal gags with which to attack people. Kind of like a ball gag. So maybe that's what we're looking at here. Which is just hilarious when you think about it, because almost all the articles that you read on these things tell you that they were inserted into other orifices. So if that is what this is, it was used to be put in the mouth. Which means that our imagination is even worse than the people in the Spanish Inquisition who would have looked at that and gone, I'm sorry, you thought we were putting that where? But even if that is what this item is, Chris Bishop makes this really, really excellent point. So let me just wiggle out of the way here. Can you see just right there, right at the bottom of the pear, there's a clasp? Yeah? So it clasps closed and then twists out. Well, if it clasps closed, that isn't being much use if it's being put in somebody's mouth or anywhere else, because you won't be able to get at it to unclasp it. The other thing he points out is that this is far too ornately decorated for just a regular torture device or something that a robber or a burglar would be using on the people that they're attacking. And that is a good point, isn't it? Because, you know, that is a fancy pants item of torture, if that's what it is. So in all likelihood, what we're looking at here is not some extravagant medieval implement of torture, but something probably like a shoe stretcher or a sock stretcher, or someone else has suggested that this might have been used to squeeze the juice out of fruit. But they're not medieval, and almost certainly weren't used to hurt people. Where they exist in museums around the world, they tend to be of very dubious provenance. There's no paper trail to say where they actually came from. The museums that house them are often torture museums, Inquisition museums, museums that are geared up for that kind of thing. And this just makes a great item to show off, doesn't it? But there is no real evidence that a Pear of Anguish was ever used as a torture device. You don't need to get that graphic to get information out of people. And even if you did, we've no evidence that it was ever used. However, none of that means that you're allowed to bring subpar dishes to a potluck dinner. You have been warned.